Hello, my dears, and welcome to this episode of Moms Who Pole. My name is Andrea. Today, I'm going to be speaking with my good friend, Kat. She is the owner and founder of Polates. Polates was founded to address the gap between pole dancing and functional exercise. The Pilates class and methodology incorporates a number of disciplines, including Pilates, Barre, and Yoga to improve your strength, movement, and focus, taking your pole performance to a new level. She is an incredible woman and mother and fantastically fit individual. And I can't wait for you to hear all about what we have to say today. Let's do this. Hey, Kat. Hey, welcome. I'm so glad I get to talk to you. I miss you.
I know, I miss you too. At Halloween, I miss everybody.
Oh, really? How was Halloween for you guys?
Wet.
Really? That sucks.
It was a washout.
That sucks. It was nice here. We had like 60s, upper 60s. What is that in Celsius?
I don't know.
Mm,
Eric, what clothes were you wearing? Like t-shirt or just a jumper or?
like a little sweater. I had a sweater.
Okay, but if you were like really active, you could have got hot in that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But okay. Or like 15 maybe. Don't know.
Yeah, it's like, what should we talk about first? The weather. That's a good
Mum.
one. Okay. All right, I'll get serious. I promised I
Yeah.
would ask you lots of questions. Okay, so Kat, you've been pole dancing now for how many years?
Well, I was literally just calculating that when I looked at the questions, and I started in my early 20s, so it's like 15, 18 years or something like that. Ridiculous.
Oh my goodness, that's such a long time. And you are injury free.
I had a break for a little bit, but yeah, I have one shoulder that has a different functioning pattern that rather than the other. Like this one shoulder is a lot more normal working than the other. But I haven't had so far any major injuries. I have niggles, but less now than I used to.
Yeah, I know for me, my shoulders, they have different functioning patterns, but it's not from pole. The shoulder that bothers me the most is actually the one that I carried my kids around with.
No, I'm sure mine's been doing it for ages, so it's pre kids. I mean, probably kids didn't help, but it was definitely before. But it's not painful. It's okay.
Oh, that's good. No, I know that.
It's literally just if one wings a little bit more, but anyway.
Oh, that's interesting. My dominant shoulder wings a little bit more, but that's not the one that gives me problems. The one that gives me problems is my less dominant side. It doesn't have as much scapular winging, but definitely when I was carrying my son around as a baby, you put him on your hip and your shoulder rolls forward, and all of a sudden, like the upper trap gets
Yeah.
involved, and so it's brutal. I finally got some stuff taken care of for my neck recently, and the stuff in my neck released, and then it was my shoulder again. I was like, oh boy, here we go again. It's that second kid, man. He destroyed my shoulder, among other things.
Yeah. That's not.
No. No. Okay, so 15, 18 years in pole. So you started polling obviously before you had kids. So how did you take a break when you started having kids, or did you
I pole. So I reckon I was pole dancing. I can't even remember for how long before I had children. I was teaching, I was competing, I was teaching advanced level. It's like probably the peak. And then I had kids, and then I gave up for pretty much almost 7 years, or around 7 years. So the next one of the questions you were going to ask me is, how did you do it, like, with the kids? So I had my so I was probably at my peak performance just before I went off and had children, and then I had my first, and then I remember thinking, I'm a mum now, I'm going to give up pole, which didn't work out. So yeah, but I did give up for a while, because obviously there was no I remember I had a little flat and I had a pole in my bedroom, and then I remember selling it because it's like, there's absolutely no, I was so sick as well during pregnancy. I was not doing any exercise, so it wasn't out of choice that I didn't pole during pregnancy. I just didn't have any capacity to move other than to work and to my bed and the odd wash.
I feel you. My first pregnancy was very difficult. I was not polling yet at the time, but I remember it took everything I had just to get up and get out of bed.
Yeah, no way I was spinning around a pole. It was just like, I just felt the least sexy I'd ever done, and I was getting fat. It was gross. I felt sick. I didn't feel great. So there was no way I wanted to pole dance or do
And
any
then,
training.
so then after you had your kids, you didn't go back to pole, then you said for 7 years?
Yeah, I think it was about that time. Yeah, so, well, maybe a little less than that, but I might have done like the odd bits, I think, now and again, or if I'd seen like a pole in a club or that sort of thing, just to check I still could do things. And I'd still did exercise. So I did a lot of yoga, a little body balance, obviously, like bar and running, and I kept fit and things like that, but I just didn't do pole. So I was still active, but I didn't go back to pole properly until after I'd had my last child.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So when you and I met, I thought you were just getting into pole like in the US. Like you happen to be in the US, you happen to be like, we happen to be living near each other, and you were just,
No, that was starting to get back into pole.
oh my goodness, that's so funny because I remember I had you in class one time. I think it was one of my like, was it like a level one tricks class or like a
Yeah.
dance class? And you were, oh, it must have been tricks. It was a tricks class, and you were like, oh, can I just try something here on the instructor pole? And you bust out an iguana, and I remember going, what the fuck? Who is she? And I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. How did you learn that? Like, because I know I will never do that trick. I will never do an iguana. Like my shoulders will be like, no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that explains why he didn't talk to me. Anyway, so I was just checking thing. Oh, I think I did that to a few instructors there. It's like, can I just try something, please, Tara?
But it's funny because you were, as someone who was just getting back into pole, like you had a lot of skills, still in your body because you had stayed fit all the time that you weren't doing pole. At the same time too, like you were very humble. You never talked about it. You mentioned that you polled in the UK. And I remember I looked at you on social media. I looked you up and I was like, oh, Spin City follows her. Like, oh, like, and then I had no idea like how lengthy your pole career was. And then one day you showed me one of your like pre-kid pole competitions. And I was like, you need to post this everywhere. This is amazing.
Oh, thanks. No, I think us Brits, we're very humble. Or we are sometimes.
Well, and then and I think it's interesting too that you took so much time off, and now, so let's see. So you've been pulling consistently then since what, for the last 4 or 5 years then?
Yeah, so when did I go? Yeah, so yeah, more like, I think I probably got back into pole maybe 2000, I don't know, I can't remember. It wasn't, I don't think it was 18, or maybe it was 19. So yeah, probably up to like 3.5 years, 4 years I've been back in it, and teaching again, not doing so much training as always.
It's hard when you teach and then you have kids to
Yeah,
balance
and also, like,
everything.
now is completely different for what I did like pre-kids.
Well, how is it different?
So I mean, like now I don't try and do I've got different goals. Like I do pole to, I guess, keep me young, keep me fit, have fun, and like feel good, and to help other people feel good in their bodies, and just like the whole embodiment, rather than I want to be the best in class. Like I don't want to be the best in class anymore. It'd be nice. Uh but it's not like, that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for like the, I guess, like the happy vibes rather than the competition vibes.
Totally. Yeah. I remember when I first started pole, like it was definitely just, well, I mean, doing a step around was very challenging for me and my sweaty hands. And then there was this period of time, and I think it was before I got pregnant with my second, where I was like, yeah, like I want to learn all the things. I'm going to do all the things. I want to compete, da da. And then like my son came around and I'm like, I will just be happy to like do like bare minimum. And even then, like I did compete after my son was born, but it was definitely not like to win or anything. It was just to prove that I could do something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Like I wouldn't mind performing again, and like that's fine, but I don't think I could be. I never say never, but it's not on my. I really need to compete again. It's no, I need to teach other people to compete.
Exactly. So, I mean, in the break that you had, then you got into fitness, you got into, I think you became a certified personal trainer as well, right?
So I did my personal training when I learned to be a pole instructor through Spin City, and then at that time I was like, I want to do more because I was doing a lot of running as well, like going to the gym. This is obviously pre-kids, and I decided to do my personal training course. So I did my personal training course sort of after I'd probably done my Spin City training, or at least around the same time, to kind of enhance my pole and other fitness and use it, and then used to run other sort of complementary classes at the Spin City studio, so like boot camps, flexibility classes, etc. So yeah, no, that was back then, but then I got back into so then obviously I had my 7 year break after children, kept going to the gym but just doing more gentle classes, and then moved to the US. And like one of the considerations was I need to be able to go to a gym with childcare. Thanks very much, that's all I'm asking for. And so I did, and then I was like, actually I really enjoy this, I'm going to get back into teaching. So I started to teach. I did my bar training, and then again it sort of sparked my more interest, and it was like, actually I want to go, I've done personal training, I want to do like more, I guess, therapeutic exercise. So that's what got me into Pilates, is it was a little bit more therapeutic healing, I guess. Like it was more of a anyone can do it, it doesn't have to be it's not a competition, it's all very personal, and you got to feel it in your own body. So that was sort of what I got from, and why I got into Pilates.
But that Pilates was pretty intense because I met you when you were going through that, and it was like, I mean, you had like a whole library in your house of various
Books.
like functional
Yes.
movement pathways, functional anatomy books, and then you had to do, were you driving like an hour away or something like that to go and get your Pilates certification?
It was a good Pilates course. It was with Barzi, and I went and I trained at head office in Newport Beach and in San Diego. But it was like it's a 500-hour course. It was, I think it was about 3 day weekends in total. No, maybe more. Hang on, no, it might have been. That was to do the first bit, and then to do the second bit, it might have been another 4 weekends. So yeah, it's about eight 3 day weekends, I think. but yeah, and a lot you had to shadowing, observation work, etc. So it was an intense course, but it was really interesting.
So was it during your Pilates certification that you saw like a very clear connection between what was going on in Pilates and then pole
Hold on.
itself?
Sort of. They're like opposite ends of the scale, right? So there's like the pole dancing, which people kind of do for fitness, feel good, have fun, but it's quite hard work. It's quite hard on your body. Like, just hanging off one arm isn't really what our bodies are kind of designed to do, and it's intense. Whereas, like Pilates is much more gentle, but also very functional. So it was more like through my years, even if I wasn't doing it, I still had all my friends were still pole dancing and competing, etc. So through sort of the years of experience, it was like, okay, these guys have injured all this, or this person's not progressing anymore, or what's happened here. Like, you could just see injuries happening, and yeah, people kind of fading out of the pole industry who I'd gone in with, but not always. There's like some of my friends have been polling for as long as me and are still going to regular classes. So it's a life thing.
I do see that. I can't remember what the study was, but it must have been, in one of my Google searches, the day when like, a shoulder or something feels funny, you start, Googling to see
Yeah.
like, oh my God, is this it for me? But I ran across this study of pole dancers where they were surveyed, and it was something like a very high percentage of them thought that, the first time they were injured, that they were going to get better and they were going to continue to pole, and the likelihood of re-injury was going to be very small. And then, but then that the percentage of pole dancers that felt that way decreased dramatically when they got their second injury. Like it happened once, you recover, oh, I'm fine, and then it happens again, and they're like, I'm. Most pole dancers were like, I'm never going to recover.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
and
where the work in, and like do the rest if you need to take the rest, and not push your body to do things without working on like the root cause.
but I think it's so hard when you find something like pole dancing where it can be anything you want it to be. Like you said, it can be fitness. You can go ahead and compete, and do all the things and feel very strong and powerful. And also the dance side, very embodied and feel good. And, you can feel kind of sexy. And you find a sport or an art form like that, and it's all you want to do. Like you don't want to cross train, you just want to do pole. And that's when, especially if you're going to be doing the tricks, or if you're going to be just spinning off of one arm when you have two,
Yep.
that's when cross training is so important. So you saw that connection there between what you were doing in Pilates and what could happen for pole. So was it during the certification then that you came up with Polates?
I think it was. I can't remember the exact thing, but I thought I'm trademarking this now.
Yes.
I remember thinking that actually there's like a huge there is, so there should be more of a connection here. Like I was like, right, everyone who does pole should do Pilates. They're not gonna, because the people that are attracted to Pilates not necessarily attracted to pole dancing, right? So there's this like market for completely different people. Obviously some people do too, but then you get people who do both, and they're like, yeah, I should have done that a long time ago. And they always say that. They always say, I wish I'd done Pilates when I first started doing pole, and I would have noticed these things quicker. But they don't always, like I said, it doesn't necessarily attract the right people. So that was why I came up with Polates, to try and take some of the like fun fitness, like doing it to music, like I guess like the sexy side, some of those things, and try and make it into a fitness class, which is like a functional strengthening, more on the Pilates scale of making sure you're using the right muscle functions, so like recruitment patterns, making sure you're using like your lower traps, not just your upper traps, and doing everything up here. So really like engaging the right muscles, making sure you're using the core. Even if you're doing like a back bend, you still use your core. All of those things. It's like we just need to do these in like a safer position over and over again. So when it comes to doing a fantastically hard move where you need to do it, you don't need to think about it. Your body is ready to do that move. Like it's going to be efficient in doing that move. It's going to recruit the right muscles, etc., etc. So that was where Pilates came from. So it was kind of taking the pole dancing and the Pilates, combining to make it into like a training or cross fitness or cross prep training, whatever you want to call it, which will support your pole dancing journey and hopefully reduce injuries because you're getting into your body and recruiting the right muscles. Because when you climb a pole, right, people, when they first learn to climb a pole, they just climb like this because everyone carries tension, or not everyone, but a lot of people, we work at desks, we drive cars, and we're all like this. So why would you not go like that when you're asking to climb a pole? And it's not necessarily like those muscles don't get used, but we also want to balance it with all the other muscles in the body that should be able to aid that movement. So yeah, that was where Pilates came. And obviously I could chat about that for ages, but I'm going to be quiet.
No, I want to hear about it. I remember when I was taking, because for a while you were teaching your Pilates classes online, so I took a couple of them. Music was great. And I think,
Lockdown.
huh?
It was during lockdown, wasn't it? It was like,
Yeah, yeah, it was
yeah,
during lockdown, and I think you made fun of my face a couple times because I was not happy.
did I?
It was, I think it was some of the oblique exercises
Oh.
were very challenging for me because I'll use my shoulders and I'll use my hips and I'll use nothing in between.
And that's the thing. It's like you want to do it repeated, and you need someone. Also, I think the thing with Pilates and Pilates is you just want to make sure you're doing it right, because if you're not doing it right, it's almost like you might be contributing to the imbalances and the bad habits rather than correcting them.
Well, and it was fun too. I feel like there was no exercise that we were doing for like a super long period of time. The hour went by pretty fast. It was like go, 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 go. You're still using the pole. If I remember right, we did a couple dancey type things. So it didn't feel like, oh, I really like pole, but now I have to do like a CrossFit class. Like it didn't feel that way to me anyway.
Yeah, that's my aim, is that you want to make it like fun, but functional, and also to get the cardio side in, because I think sometimes we don't necessarily get that in pole, like not unless cause we will be like, I feel out of breath, I'm going to stop now. Whereas unless you're doing like routine all class, you don't necessarily get the whole cardio. So that's sort of trying to get the high heart rate as well.
That's true, because when I start moving quickly in pole or I start to get out of breath, like my hands will start to get slippery, and that's like kiss of death for a pole dancer. So it's like, oh, I better stop, dry these puppies off, put on some grip maybe. And then by giving yourself all these breaks, you're not necessarily training.
Heart rate up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember when you got certified for Pilates,
Yeah.
you wrote a paper about the importance of cross training for pole dancers, right?
It was a paper on it's actually on Bendy Kate and her shoulder injury, and it was like the like Pilates. It was meant to start off as a Pilates rehabilitation program for a pole dancer that had hurt her shoulder. It then sort of elaborated, and it was meant to be about 8 pages long, and it was about 30 pages about the importance of cross training and what we should also do. It was more like prevention as well as rehabilitation as well. So yeah, it went on and on and on.
Well, and
But
there's
it got
so much.
published on a website, so that was cool.
That is cool. And I mean, there's so much out there right now for, you know, pole dancers and they're like, you got to do your prehab and your rehab and your cross training. And like, realistically speaking, like, you have 3 kids, I have 2 kids. Like, how do you fit it in? You know, like if you want to pole dance and you're going to a couple classes a week because it's like your night out, right? Away from the kids, right? Someone else is watching them. Like, how do you fit in all the stuff you're supposed to fit in so that you can keep doing this for as long as you want?
I don't really know. You just do. I don't know. I think like I haven't done regular lessons for ages, which is naughty because I really want to get back into it. And there is a lesson before my class which I keep wanting to go to, but my husband's been away for the last 3 weeks. So I haven't been able to get there, and it's kind of like any excuse because I work in the day, doing my day job, and then I'll go out and teach in the evening, and then it's like, oh, I'm going to teach, but where do I train? So it is just like priorities. And I think part of my priorities is actually, do you know what? I do still want to train, but I want to help people and like embody them and have them have a good time teaching pole like I used to. Well, I still do, but you know what I mean? That my goals have changed, what I want to do. And I just like doing the like teaching side. As be nice to do more training, but I guess I just want to like help people and use my experience and my knowledge to support other people.
But then I think it's an instructor then because you're aware of that. Do you like slip some of that stuff into like your warm-ups and cool downs then?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's we sometimes get a bit sidetracked. So I'm like, if we do just this exercise, you'll be able to sit. I'm like, oh, we're in a pole class, not Pilates. These
Right,
guys,
because
I really like it, and that was really interesting. But I'm like, hang on, they didn't pay here to come here to do that. They came to pole dance. But everyone likes to learn a bit about their body. So I think sometimes when you do like an exercise, like standing on one leg and watching how your body moves when you do that, people do learn a lot, and then that will help them. So yeah, I do slip it into just a normal pole class too, accidentally more than planned.
yeah, I will sometimes sneak like in like a straddle stretch. I'll try to get like I'll do kind of like a lat pull down as you're leaning to the side just to get like the lower lats to fire while we're in a straddle. And I think it's helpful just to get the right muscles queued up. But
Yeah.
it's really hard. I mean, yes, you want to fit prehab into a warm up, but like for me, I have really cranky hip flexors, and so while my youngest is in the shower and like I have to be there and watch the shower, I'm like, okay, I could be on social media right now, or I could do my hip flexor exercises. So I fit them in while he's in the shower. I mean, because that's the only time I have to do them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think like so in line with that, like I would, it's not anything particular, but I will always try and walk to school to keep my head, like to keep my fitness up rather than drive. Sometimes it's like I'm gonna make myself walk to school, leave early, and get there, and have a moan that and then like just have to listen to my children and get, hey, why didn't you bring the car, mom? It's disgusting. It's raining. Why didn't you? Blah blah blah. But nah, because mummy needs to keep fit.
Right? It's like, no, if I don't walk you to school today, I may not get to walk at all today.
Yeah, or this might be the only chance I'm getting out of the house.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also I guess I did miss out that I've been also like have well, not recently as in the last month, but pre that I did start getting back into running, and I was like, I don't want to run a long period of time. I'll get up at 6:15 and be out by 6:30 to be back by 7. There is no way I'm running longer than sorry 6 that I'm not running more than like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I don't want to. I just like that's enough.
I
So I
don't
did try
know.
the days a week, but then again, husband left and went away for a bit, so that kind of got sucked out. But
I,
I'm
I
gonna get back.
don't I don't know if I could run for 20 minutes. I'm not a runner. I remember this was back in I think it was like 2019 or early 2020, so like pre-pandemic. I was choreographing a group number and it was fast. And I remember it was so fast that even I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I have the endurance for it. I was like complaining to my husband about, I'm like, I just don't know how we're going to be able to get through this. And he like looks at me kind of scared and he's like, have you tried running?
That's the answer to everything.
I know. I looked at him like, no, try again.
I've got a bit of a chesty cough. Have you tried running? I've got a
Right.
back. Have you tried running? Yes, I've tried running.
I'm that horrible person where they're like, someone will be like, oh, I don't know why I can't do ballerina. My shoulders are so tight. I'm like, have you tried thoracic mobility? They're like, oh, I'm feeling kind of under the weather. I'm like, it must be because your thoracic vertebra, like that whole area there is not very mobile. Have you tried doing some spinal twists? Like the secret to the universe is 42 and thoracic mobility. But I know it's good to just get out and do something. And I mean, for someone who like it's hard when like the babies are little, the babies you can kind of put them in like a stroller. You know, you can try to kind of walk around if you've got nice weather. But I think
Or
it's
I bet what if you've got one baby, you can go to like, oh, it's a mother and baby class.
right. But when it's like when they outnumber you, you feel like you've become that mom that you're like you wish you never became, the one that's like, stop pulling your sister's hair, stop it. Just stop it. Like you can see everyone looking at you as you're losing your shit in public.
Uh-huh.
Like this morning I told like my kids were getting into the car and my oldest was complaining that they were late. Well, they were late because they didn't put their fleece away and they needed their fleece. And so somehow it was my fault because I didn't know where the fleece was. I said, well, I know you're supposed to put your fleece away when you get home. You didn't put it where you were supposed to put it. So now we're late. And
Yep.
and I'm saying this to them like in the driveway and I can hear, because it's a quiet morning, I can hear my voice echoing off the houses. I'm like, my neighbors think I'm crazy, but I'm
Like,
not.
yeah. Get in the car. Have you got your glasses? Have you got your book bag? Have you got this? No. Why haven't you got it? Go and get it. Every morning.
Every freaking morning it's like, oh my God. And then it's like, I don't know if I don't know what it's like for you at home, but for me, then it's like, okay, I am going to take 45 minutes, so not an hour, right? I can't give myself a full hour to pull back. I'm going to take 45 minutes. I'm going to warm up and I'm going to like just train like these like 3 tricks, or I'm going to train like this movement pathway. And then I hear, is the pole on spin? I'm going to try. Like,
Can you put the pole on spin? No.
no, I'm just spinning around it. Oh, the pole's on spin. It's my turn. It's my turn. And like, because it's a jungle gym. It's a jungle gym bar that's in the house. And
Yeah.
it's not yours. You just get to use it when it's not their turn. Like,
Yep, I've heard that. Yeah. And then
uh,
they're wow, why have you climbed up the? How have you done that? Just climbed up using your feet and your hands. Wicked, but how?
exactly. And then they want you to teach them, and it's like, but I really wanted this moment for myself. But what can you do, right? It's like you do anything for them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so sharp left. Sorry, I digress. Talking about the little monsters. Uh, okay, so tell me, with regards to Pilates, so right now you're teaching a couple nights a week pole, but you're also teaching Pilates, yes?
yeah. Yeah, so I teach pole once a week. I've got a couple of group Pilates that I go, and then I also have about average like private clients, probably about 10 clients a week that I do in my home studio, which we're in now on like the Reformer, Cadillac, Wonder Chair, etc.
And you do all that and you cook. Like I've been in your house where you're like, "Oh, I don't know what to like do for dinner," and you just start pulling out all these amazing fresh vegetables and you put them in a pan and you make amazing dinners. So you also cook.
Yeah, but I didn't. I just do. I just cook.
No, but
But
you
I've
cook
always
really well. You cook a lot better than me. I'm like, looks like it's a mac and cheese night.
I had to do that back at home, but I burnt it, and Preston wouldn't eat it, and the kids wouldn't eat it, so we didn't eat it. I think it was just vegan meatballs or something. Like, yeah, we didn't do that.
That was such a good meal. So you had made,
Like a roast dinner, wasn't it?
yeah, you made vegan meatballs and turnips, right? And carrots,
Something, yeah, and potatoes.
potatoes. The potatoes were really good. I remember that. And cabbage. And it was really good. And I thought, oh, I can do this. I can do this. And I burned the turkey meatballs or the vegan meatballs. I burned the vegan turkey meatballs. They like stuck to the bottom of the pan and I used oil. I used oil and they stuck to the bottom of the pan and no one ate it. And I remember my youngest, he ate yours. He wouldn't eat
Yeah.
mine.
Oh, that was funny. Um, yeah. So yeah. Anyway, where were we talking about that?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
No, I digress. Now I want to ask you guys, but you're not a true vegan, but you guys are plant-based, yeah?
I try and eat more plant based. I don't eat a lot. I don't eat any meat. Haven't for a while. But my children will, and Ollie will. But I don't really cook it. They'll choose that if they're out or for a school meal or something. They'll ask for meat. But yeah.
But how'd you get into that? Was it just always you've just never been a fan of meat or
Like keto for ages. But no, I remember looking into like the environmental side of things, and I was like, okay, what can I do to do my bit? So I went vegan for a little bit, and then I came back to the UK. And no offense, but the cheese is better, and I realised I like cheese, so that sort of was like, okay, I'm going to try and buy happy cheeses, so try not to get too like the ones with air miles. But yeah, it was more environmental factors that got me into it. But having then not eaten meat for quite a long time, and now I'm like, nah, no thank you, it looks like an animal.
yeah. But when you first started getting into that then, I mean, were you like utilizing a lot of resources? Because like I just stood in your kitchen and watched you create a plant-based dish with no recipe. Like for me, I'll be like looking at a recipe and I'll be like, oh, look, it calls for like, oh, cashews and 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. I bet that's optional. Like, and I try to follow a recipe and I still can't. And then
I
disaster
think I've
strikes.
been cooking for a long time. I just see what I've got and what I can do. I mean, sometimes it's an absolute disaster, but sometimes it works out all right. And I think what I've like the thing I do is instead of just using a normal meatball, I'll get a vegetarian meatball or vegetarian sausages or vegetarian meat, whatever. So I can just substitute like that. Um,
So it's like making it's like little choices in the store.
yeah, yeah. And then I've got a couple of, I think I've just got recipes then that I'll just keep using, like pesto, pasta, and things like that.
Right. Like you find like the one that works. Like I think I found this one recipe a while ago where it was like mushrooms in a pan or whatever, mushrooms, and then once they've cooked, you add tomatoes and then zucchini, and then like there was some avocado based kind of like basil pesto thing that you put on at the top. And it takes like 5 minutes to make and it's done. And it tastes like, it tastes very hearty, like a full meal. I'm like, oh, this is great. So now I'm going to use zucchini noodles for everything. Like I'm never going to actually use pasta again. So it was really, you find that one recipe and then you can just add it into your rotation until you find a new recipe. And then before you know it,
Yeah,
you've gone from, eating a lot of food that maybe you want to get rid of from your life and you just start slowly replacing until all of a sudden you're, eating in a way that helps you feel good.
yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So what's next for Pilates?
Getting my butt in gear. So obviously we just moved. Well, we're not just. I've been back about 18 months, but sort of getting like back into a job and setting up my Pilates business. And I've kind of just put Pilates on the back burner. So the next step is bringing it to the top of the priorities. So finishing writing the course and advertising and getting basically sort of launching it again. So
Now,
that's it.
when you say the course, are you referring to teaching students, or are you referring to like a certification program?
A certification program. So my aim is to completing writing the course so that others can teach this. So I want to make it so that everyone's kind of got access, not just the people at the studio I teach in. So it's like, okay, let's spread this. You can do the course, and like making sure everyone's obviously got the right understanding. And I'll probably put some sort of I don't want to say test, but what do they call it? Not a test, not an exam, assessment. That's what I'm trying to
Oh,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, to make sure that, like, you know, it's not lost in, like, the details not lost. So yeah, so just need to finish that course, launch it, and get it out there a little bit more.
Well, I know for me, I know I'd like to get certified in it. And I think particularly, I mean, yes, focusing on those lower lats and being
They're the
stable
main.
throughout. Yes. But I think too, I think a lot of times, like I remember after I had my second child, I didn't even suffer from I'm gonna say it wrong, diastasis recti. I did
Yeah,
not suffer from that. And yet it felt like there was a disconnect between like my brain and my lower abs. Like I knew in my head what my body should do, and yet it wouldn't do it. And I
yeah,
feel like something like, but I'm never going to walk into a Pilates studio. Like I'm
yep,
just not.
yeah, no, yeah.
So
It's like people aren't gonna go to Pilates, and but pole people will hopefully be um, attracted to Pilates because they know it will be good for them, but it'll also be a lot of fun and yeah, help them.
well, I think that something like Pilates would be a part of, your post-birth recovery program if you wanted to get back into pole, because it took me, I mean, at minimum, it was 6 months before I was doing the kind of things that I wanted to do,
Yeah,
with regards to uh my mind-body connection to my lower abs.
yeah,
And I feel
yeah,
like something like Pilates would help to make that recovery time a little bit shorter because it's a little more targeted towards what my body actually needs.
yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. Also, I think sort of people a lot of people when they first come into pole dancing actually don't really have that much experience in like the fitness world or the exercise world. So that's why like pole can be so fun. But then sort of you come from zero background to trying to hang off upside down on one arm in 6 months, right? So that's going to be fairly, not necessarily dangerous, but you've got to make sure you're doing it right and training the right muscles, and obviously not creating imbalances, which we all do have. But so something like Pilates will be good for that because it's going to help you get to your goals, but also mean you're using the right muscles and safely. And then equally, for people who have been doing a pole a long time, they will probably have imbalances because even if we train both sides, we will do a routine or we might do a competition piece, and we're always going to do it on our best side. So that is going to, like, for the most advanced people, they will have imbalances. And then something like Pilates will help them be more aware, and they can then use something like Pilates to rebalance and or just reconnect with the imbalances.
Absolutely. Do you remember that one time you squeezed my dominant side arm? You're like, oh, someone's getting a little imbalanced there.
Oh yeah, I do. There's quite a big size difference if I remember rightly.
There was a big size difference. So it was definitely pulling on. I mean,
It's,
we're at home. I feel like it wasn't as bad like before the pandemic because I'm left dominant. And so if I'm going to go to a pole class, particularly if it's choreo or an upper level choreo dance class, it's all
Yeah,
on the right side. So I, whether I liked it or not, got both sides trained because if I was
yeah,
in a class, I was doing it on my non-dominant side. But then to
yeah.
be at home training online, no one can tell. It got pretty
No,
bad.
no, yeah. No, I know. That's funny.
Well, you're going to have to send me all the things so we can let people know if they want to learn about Pilates, where they can go to learn more about it, because I think it'd be really helpful for people that maybe, you know,
I'm
either they're
interested.
coming back from injury or they are a more advanced polar looking to, find that balance and kind of correct some movement patterns that they've developed over the years. But I think also a lot of times I hear from people who are interested in starting pole, like, they'll even buy a pole and put it in their house, right? But they're scared to start because they're like, oh, I'm not strong enough. Oh, I have to
Oh,
get strong. And it's like, well, we'll build it into you, but there's that, I think it's that mental hurdle. And I feel like something like Pilates, where it's this hybrid of two very different worlds, might be what some of those people need to like get through that hurdle of, okay,
yeah.
I need to get strong. Here's how I'm going to get strong. And I'm going to go ahead and do this program.
Or
And that
people who are
helps.
fit enough to come and do some like Pilates to get the fitness level side of things up.
Yeah,
Get this,
exactly.
I don't know, yeah, calorie burning, etc., etc. Sorry.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, what advice do you have for moms who have just started out polling, or maybe they're pollers that recently became moms? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, wow, lots. So kind of conflicting in some ways. So I would say like don't feel guilty about doing something for yourself, right? Because like if you're happier, then you'll portray that to your family and your kids and they'll see that. So yes, you might take an hour out to go to a pole class, but don't feel guilty because you've got to do what you've got to do. Also, yeah, just be easy on your body. Don't expect things to happen as quickly. And just be gentle with yourself, both mind and body. So, I mean, yes, pre-kids, you might have been able to do something and then you can't do it. Well, is there any surprise? So just be gentle with that and don't beat yourself up about it. Um, what other things would I advise? Yeah, no, and like refinding yourself. I think after motherhood, it's like you've gone from being your normal self, and then you've had this kid, and then the last thing you want to do, like the last thing you feel is sexy. You just feel like a cow that's being milked, and your body's completely changed. So just again, uh, take time. It'll take time, like to feel sexy again, and you will, but it's not a race.
Exactly. There is no such thing as bouncing back. It's just this transformation that happens and how you reconnect to yourself as this new person.
Yeah, and like what you want, like what do you want? And you just might not be the same thing as before. So
Yeah.
be aware, and yeah, be aware of your body. Take time to like literally listen to it, and even like when you're doing things, look in the mirror, check how you're doing things nowadays. Do you lean on one side more than the other, etc.? Do you hitch a hip all the time? So also the physical side of things.
Oh, such a Pilates answer. That's so good. Well, that is very good advice. Okay, one more question for you. Do you have any funny moms who poll story or stories you'd like to share?
No, not I don't think anything particular. Apart from obviously smacking my kids around with heels and things like that. Get out of my pole room if you don't want to be hit, and sort of might have done it on purpose now and again just to get them out of the way and to prove a point. Not that that should probably be recorded. uh but if you are standing by the bottom of my pole and I've said get out of the way or I'm going to hit you, it might happen. um
I feel like they
uh,
do it on purpose. They get close because they think she's not going to do it.
like, yeah,
She's
I'm
not
gonna.
going to spin around while I'm here.
I am, and I hope it sort of hurts. Sorry, it's getting really dark. I'm just going to try and put a light on. But no, I think my need to have, oops, hello, that was my light, to have more darker space now. I'm like, let's think about having the room a lot darker now. So just in case something might flop out, or my legs are more hairier than I forgot to shave, which would have never happened pre-children because I would have gone to pole. And if I'd seen a pubic hair in pole pre-children, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm horrified. Now I'm like, let's turn the lights down a little bit more, shall we? Never mind, no one's looking at me anymore. So yeah, no, not necessarily individual mums at pole, but I think you just kind of care less a little bit about what's there.
Yeah.
If you your armpits or your legs, or if you care. But actually, do you know what? Compared to probably 15 years ago when everyone shaved their armpits and shaved their legs, a whole like I love it now. People don't bother as much, and I'm thinking, girl, like you look great, and I'm really pleased. So you're an inspiration to me.
Exactly. I think it's funny how, I mean, I remember I had a student recently who said something like that, like, oh, like I haven't shaved. I'm like, I really don't care. Like
Yeah,
we all have hair, like we all grow it. So
yeah,
it does not bother me at all. Like I'm here to make sure you can invert safely. Like I really
yeah.
don't care if I see hair.
I'm not your beauty therapist. That doesn't bother me.
Exactly. Or I had a student who they asked if they should like shave their armpits for a performance, and I was like, do
If you
you do you want
want to.
to? Like if you want to, go ahead, but if not, like no one's going to be looking at your armpits when you're shaking your ass in front of us. Like we're going to be staring at your ass. Like if it makes you more comfortable, go ahead, but otherwise like no one cares.
So if you've done it with hairy armpits and you haven't done it with shaved armpits, you need to practice because you might have been relying on a different grip.
That is true. That is a much better answer. You're absolutely right. You want to perform the way you train. Absolutely.
Oh,
I know I used the same like I got nervous. I was traveling to a different climate for performance recently. I had the grip that I was using out here. It's very humid out here, and I went back, and it was colder and it was a little bit drier, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I need different grip, but I don't want to use different grip because it's different from how I've been training, you know?" It's challenging. But
what did you
yeah.
do?
Huh?
What did you do? Hybrid of both.
What I
Both.
ended up doing was I begged the pole cleaners to not only clean the poles, but to get them warm. So that way at least they were warm and clean. And then I
Also,
used my regular grip and I was okay. So
yeah, Andrea's back and she doesn't want her poles cleaned. They need to be cleaned and warmed. So if you could just hug them for 20 minutes.
yes, and Chassis cleaned my pole for me. And she was up there and she was like up there and she stayed up there scrubbing the pole and she like moved down very slowly. And I was like, thank you. And it was warm because let me tell you, it was really cold in there. It was super cold and the poles felt like cold and wet. And I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna make it.
It's gonna fall. Well,
But,
fine.
well, cool. I know I think it's what, you're 6 hours ahead of me, so it's getting close to pickup time.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
And I feel like the pandemic has made us really aware of other people's timetables and how little we know about them.
Right now. Thank you very much. I will see you soon. See you in April, hopefully.
Sounds good, Kat. Take care. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.